So, welcome to our next podcast where we're listening to the kaiako talking about their practices in a real life, embedded, attuned way. Um, I'm Anita Mortlock and I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful colleague and friend Alex Owens, and we're really delighted to be with you again. So, in this episode, the teachers revisit some of their former discussions around manu, the birds at their kindergartens, and life and death. And we start to consider this idea of what is expression anyway. And Alex, I know you've got a really pertinent question that came out of this podcast for you.
Absolutely. The striking thing, the thing that
Mm-hmm.
struck me was how does this challenge our current understandings about communication?
Oh, that's nice. So, yeah, as we listen to the kayako speaking with each other, I think that's a really excellent question to hold in the forefront of our minds and
Mm.
forefront of our minds. And yeah, let's revisit that after we've listened to the discussion at the end of our podcast.
I'm eating bird seed. um, so for the last couple of weeks, we've been burying a couple of manu that I found on the grounds. And then Cherish contacted us over our team chat to say, oh, I've got a project. And then when I got to work yesterday, she had a box. And inside was this really brand new baby bird. Like, that's brand new. And her cat had gone up the tree and took it from the nest and brought it back to show her. She rescued it. It's so tiny. I said to Cherish, it's never gonna survive. It's so small. She goes, it's already survived the night. So it's a bit of a fighter because she got it on the Wednesday afternoon. So we had it at work yesterday. And I showed all the tamariki at our mat time. I sat down in the middle and showed them all, got them all to be quiet. And it's like so tiny. So I've got a picture on my phone, which is what I was showing Anita. And then I could see the children's faces. Like, I see straight away who are amongst the tamariki who are going to be animal lovers, because you could just see it straight away, and then the others who didn't care, and then the few that were freaked out by it and just didn't want to come close. Yeah. And then when Cherish fed it at lunchtime, I'm all over Cherish's back going, what the? This is, she's giving it a little feed of something. And again, I just kept on saying, I don't think it's going to live. It's too small. It needs its mother. But this morning she sends a text to say it survived the night again. So it was at kindy with us all day yesterday.
Yeah.
And the teachers are calling it spicy wing. Spicy wing. He goes back home with Cherish last night and he's got him through the night again. And he might be a bit of a fighter. Yeah, so it was really cool because we've had these couple of burials that yesterday we could show the little new one.
Mm,
And I like to always talk to the tamariki about the sister circle of life.
mm,
The Neru was hungry and he's gone up there and he's gotten it away from its mummy. His mummy doesn't know where he is now. I said, but now his new mummy is Cherish. Cherish is trying to help him. Have to be really quiet. And yeah, it was really, really cool engagement with the tamariki. And even in the afternoon before they left, we've got these two little sisters, and they're like, the manu, the manu. And then it's like, oh, you want to see the manu? So I went and got it again, and they're just, their eyes,
mm.
they're just going to love. And also, I know they've got the soft heart already. Yeah, so it's really cool. Yeah, and I'm not sure if Cherish is good at work today, but yeah, it's so tiny. Yeah, I'll show you something. Yeah, so I was just sharing it with Anita because I've never met a greenie person like it.
Yeah.
And right from the duck story, I was like, who jumps the fence to save a freaking duck, man? But that's kind of like a little picture of
Yeah,
their
like
feeding.
it's got no feathers.
Oh my gosh.
It's so
Whoa.
it's really tiny. I said that's not going to live without its mum. But
Mm.
yeah, it's a
It's
fighter.
a little fighter.
That's what Anita asked. I think it's definitely got some sort of milk in it, but I don't. This was something else. But so Cherish's mum grew up on Matakana Island, so she's a bit of a country girl, and she has raised or hand reared some birds in her life. Yeah. So Cherish's mum and Cherish are working to try and keep him
That's
alive.
fabulous.
Isn't that lovely?
It's mushed up.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to dig up a worm and then cut it up.
I'm
Oh,
not sure.
that's what I was
Yeah.
imagining.
A little bit of a
I'm not
blender.
100% what's in there for now. But I just, when I saw him, like, he's too tiny. He's not. And as it was yesterday, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she comes and she gives him a little move around, and then you see his little wing.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
so he's still hanging in there. Yeah.
It's amazing how such a fragile little body has got such a strong, like, will to
Yeah.
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
To live.
Yeah. I mean, that thing's tiny.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So already, like in the children's reactions to this little manu, you can see so much about expression there. And like when I listen to your words, Maria, hearing, you can tell which ones are going to be animal lovers, and you can tell which ones are a bit like, oh,
Yeah.
how could you tell?
So I'm just looking at their faces and their body language, because I sat on the floor in the middle where they could come, but not they had to sit down so the other tamariki could see, and we actually had to move a few children who just were not listening, but their interest was, I've got to come in closer. I had children right up beside me and their eyes were like that, and they were not horrified, they were just fully engaged, just there. You just saw it in their facials and the body language for myself. Yeah, and the one of our wee girls, she's like, yeah. She's like, oh, yeah. So I'm like, what the hell?" And she's like, "Well, no, okay, not for you then." Yeah.
And that is okay, isn't
Yeah.
it? Actually, but
And we've got this great little lad, so he is hilarious. So the first dead manu that we found was beautiful little yellow canary one. And when he first saw it, oh my God, the scream, he was like, oh, like it was fear and it was interest, and he was horrified and that, and he's only 2-year old. He was really, really funny. And then he moved around my circle to get up closer. And then eventually I was saying to the tamariki, you can touch it, but we have to be respectful. And he's blowing on it. And then eventually his finger went in. And so the second manu, he was much more braver. He just came straight and touched it. And then yesterday's one, he was like, let's have a look. But he didn't have the scream or anything. So for me, with that little lad, I think, just building that knowledge of our little animal kingdom in them. And he might not have much access to animals at home.
but look at the working through
Yeah.
that process that he's gone through to get to that place where immediately I'm interested and I can overcome any fears.
And so, you know it, and I know you do it too. We always try to make sure that one joins us when we get some sort of a learning experience going. I know I target. I was like, I need you to come with me because I have already seen that they show that little bit of interest. Yeah.
And they show the interest by things that are other than said in multiple ways.
Yeah.
So, the body language, the face,
Mm.
sometimes
Even-
you just don't need words.
Yeah, that just leaning in business, that I am stepping into this, not away from this.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, hearing this, we've got, if we go back to the ideas around holistic expression that we've been working with as being, partly up here in the mind, expressed through our bodies, and we've got that spiritual aspect as well. I mean, you're dealing with really the crux of that, which is life and death. But how do some of the children react to the funeral, to the
So really good. So we've got one of our cute lads, and he must have, on the day of the first funeral, he came up and he was tapping me quite often saying, he died. And I go, yes, he has died. I always try to keep it, yes, he has. And that was his words for the day, was he died. Manu died. Yes, Manu has died. So it's just keeping it real, I think, for what they say. I let them gather, I usually do it, let them gather to see. And then, of course, digging the bloody hole. Of course, we found worms along the way. So that was like, oh, let's study the worms. And I was like, let's put the worm back in, give the worm another home. Like this, yeah. And just letting them see it, but letting them touch it in that first. And then saying to them, this is our final farewell now. We need to say goodbye now, and Manu's not coming back. Where's Manu? Manu's mum, Manu's brothers. And because we had the Atua poster with Tani Mahuta, and it's got lots of Manus lying away from him, he's got, I'm able to just use that visual, go, see, he's going over to Tani Mahuta, and he's going to join his Manu brothers and sisters, and his mum, and his brother, Yeah. So it's just keeping that conversation going when the visual board was good. But I always try to answer them when they touch me to ask me the questions. Yeah.
That interface with the living room's really such a huge thing, and especially I can remember when we came to see you, and it was really funny because there was a child who had a worm.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh, yes.
I kind of was a little bit freaked out by how she was handling the worm because I'm just so used to the more kind of gentle.
Yeah, those worms go through a lot.
And Alex is like, it's okay, it's okay. And then it was hugely relieving to me when you came over and you were like, oh, let's take this worm back to the garden and things like this. But it was so interesting because later on that same child went and got another worm, or maybe even the same worm, let's hope not, but I'd be totally traumatized. I don't know if worms have trauma, but anyway, got the worm, and it was like she was kind of playing out this worm really became part of her self-expression, but she was sort of making this I guess socio-dramatic play out of it, and so she would sort of pick the worm up and then scream and then throw it, and again I was like kind of thing, and it was so nice again for you to come over and say, oh, we'll just take the worm back and what have you. And then meanwhile there was this other child who Alex using people's names who you explained were really into all kinds of insects and little things. You probably know the child I'm talking about, and that was really great because he actually got in there too, and and then he found a slug, and that was quite interesting because she screamed at that, but it didn't seem like she was genuinely frightened, if that makes any sense, and partly because she felt okay about holding it, and then it all became part of the play. But I was kind of thinking, what is being expressed here, and I mean, it was interesting because in some ways the living things were not living for her. It didn't seem like they were objects as part of her expression. But then it was great to see you come in because then you were trying to build that bridge between what she was doing and the fact that these are living, these are living aspects of Papatoa Miku, or however it was that you were positioning.
And I just think of how we've at that over time when I've come into relief, I've abandoned having kind of like a leadership role and become the local expert because of our wee dad's interest in all sorts of living things, but his capacity to find out, his curiosity and his desire and his
You're right.
Yeah, more than once he sought out as the expert on bugs and living things. Go and get this wee man. And he comes over and you can just feel that he's grown.
I just wrote a story about that actually because he really has that's his role. He knows where to find all the bugs, like where the snails live and where the worms live and all that stuff. And so everyone goes to get him, and he'll go and get someone found a snail, he goes and gets a container and he layers it with leaves and grass and carries it around, looks after it until he puts it back.
It's real caring.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that screaming is sometimes maybe their experiences at home, like so it's worthwhile talking to the families and saying what you've noticed. Because for some of the parents, they could have that kind of thing of bugs, and it's like, put it away, and so they're kind of reenacting that, or got that sort of fear instilled in them that it's just something creepy crawly, and it's something to be get it out, and squashed, or
That's what I've always found. The first instinct is to squash.
Yeah.
So I know I've always
it-
worked with, we just need to put our pick outside. I don't know how good in our kindy,
Mm,
you know, but sometimes I see the difference with the scream with fear and the scream with,
excitement.
what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? You know, and a chance to actually look at it, look at its colours and parts.
And even showing them how to pick it up safely without having to touch it, sliding the paper underneath and then having a sitting around. We've had a tangi as well,
Yeah, we have.
and that understanding around respecting. It'd be nice for us to have a hole of some sort where our bug house is.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Mm.
It's been careful on the burials now, I've noticed, for us anyway, because we've got a few now. And it's like, I need to make sure I'm not too close, because that one won't be quite broken down.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now I'm being a bit more mindful where we're going to take the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just
Pulling
like,
up the
I'm
cemetery.
gonna have to move that over a little because I do not want to. I don't want to traumatize. I know what's going to be down there.
Oh,
I love hearing them talk. Don't
I
you?
do too, Nita.
So what I take out of this conversation, Alex, I'm not sure about you, but for me, I just heard life experiences, their real life feelings as a consequence of those experiences, and the real life expression of those feelings. And Maria used the term leaning in, like the children were leaning in, but actually I feel like the kaiako were really leaning in to the children too. And there's those beautiful moments where, children are talking about death, or, they're talking about or expressing, not, I think this is the key thing. It's not just the kupu, it's not just the words that they're using, but, there's this idea that they're expressing in whatever form curiosity about the dead manu at the same time as expressing feelings of maybe perhaps being disturbed by it. Where there's a child who's screaming, even though he seemed to be curious. And just seeing, for me, in that process of acknowledging that and responding to that, for him, seeing him then to become more courageous with his interface with death in this instance. Yeah.
Absolutely, Anisha. And we often sanitize for children what we believe is they should be expressing or we should be responding to, because our feelings, we have difficult feelings around that. But what I enjoyed in both examples was the honouring and the recognition that children need to process all parts of life. Everything in life is absolutely valid. And when I listen, I hear how Maria gathered information from a lot of unspoken expression, how children were positioning themselves and how they were placed, how well the children are known by the teachers, and how that's responded to in terms of what we prioritise as valid forms of expression to respond to.
Absolutely. You might hear my dog. She's having a valid form of expression at the moment. She's doing a grizzle. There she goes.
So we're Alex, Anita, and Bonnie today, expressing our perspectives on that.
The other thing too that I think is just so really lovely there is there's so much care demonstrated this. So the teachers are modeling care, and they're not necessarily talking about care. It's not the topic of conversation. It's not in the explicit wordy field, but they're demonstrating this care for insects and in life, and they're caring for animals in death, and
And they're showing care for the little manu at kindergarten and at home.
Yeah.
So giving the idea that and answering questions and presenting that care of both the bird and the worms in a really whole sense. So it gives children a picture that life and death and care
Mm.
is interlinked, as well as being an experience that connects the world to their kindergarten.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
really. And, not all of the children did demonstrate care per se or even interest,
No.
but it was really nice to sort of hear them talk about, this sort of growing idea of almost expertise and connectedness within that. And if I think about the challenging feelings that we can have in the way that the teachers are honoring the children's expression of that, I do wonder about the relationship between children then being able to go on and really be their full caring selves.
Absolutely. And within that sort of ethic of care or culture of care, children are learning so much rich information, and the teachers are utilising the opportunity in response to understanding what the children are expressing
Mm.
to cross every part of Te Whāriki.
Oh,
If
that's
you
so
think about
true.
it, there's the empowerment,
Mm.
there's the sharing, power sharing, there's every area, there's communication, exploration, and there's every part of what I understand within our learning curriculum
Mm.
is responded to by the teachers, and that goes back to recognizing expression, what children are expressing.
Oh my gosh, do you know what I really like? This brings up for me, Alex, and what you're saying is the teacher's capacity here to be teaching with the children as human beings as opposed to teaching subjects. Because, there's moments there where the children are exploring insects in quite an objectifying kind of way. They're not recognizing necessarily or honoring the insect as a living being.
Mhm.
Um, and it would be so easy for the teachers in that moment to get into the child's working theories around, say, science or biology or whatever it is that the child is, working with. It'd be so easy to kind of tap in at that level and get all subject oriented, which, there is a place for at times. But what
Mhm.
I really like about this is that the teachers, with what you're saying, they're really holding those core principles of Te Whāriki right at the heart and center of what they're doing. And as a consequence of that, it's so connected to, as you said, reading the whole child. Yeah, and the way that they're interfacing with these little creatures and critters that are coming into their world.
And we all know that creatures and critters our children have such curiosity
Mm.
about creatures and critters and wonderful things that live in our environment, and just how different it is that they might respond to that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Helen made a really good comment in there or one that spoke to me, as in, what do the whānau say about that?
Mm,
What's the experiences?
mm,
And so linking not just within the kindergarten, but to the whānau and home experiences to better inform how teachers might respond.
mm,
So I found that
mm.
whole discussion with everybody's input really very interesting. Sort of covered all bases, so to speak.
It did. And Shay brought in, sort of implicitly this concept of ako, where there's a child who is the expert and they're honoring his expression of his expertise, but it's not just factual knowledge about insects, although that was there. It's also she was really careful to talk about his kaitiaki, his shepherding
Yes,
of looking after the insects as well and his knowledge there. So it kind of hit on two levels, So it's very, for me, there's so much warmth in this and what they're saying.
absolutely.
Mm.
The warmth is absolutely evident. And even if you're not sitting in the room with those people, it comes through in the podcast discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
So we hope you all picked up the warmth and the intentions, but also the recognition of how children's expressions guided the teachers in their responses, and how rich the experience the children received as a result of that.
Mm. and how the teachers didn't shut down the children's expression when it was sometimes difficult or challenging or uncertain or
They dealt with that
yeah.
in a very warm and honest way.
Yeah. And I mean, one final point for me too is, I feel like in our current beingness in the world, there's a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty, I think, is one of the most difficult things for people to face. None of us like to be in a situation where things are uncertain.
That's right.
And yet here the teachers are just really acknowledging that uncertainty can be difficult and trusting that the children have the resilience to manage that. So, we see that in when they're talking about this little manu, day by day, has the manu survived the night?
Yes.
The ongoing existence of this manu is not a given, it's uncertain. And it's nice to see the teachers really bring that into the curriculum.
Absolutely. And you mentioned trusting the children. There is a high trust relationship
Yeah.
with the teachers and the children that says, I trust you to be able to cope with this.
So if we're thinking about expression, actually that's kind of huge, because quite often we think about expression as saying a thing about a thing in the moment.
Yes.
Whereas this is dropping down into something deeper, which is how the kaiako and the tamariki are expressing to each other their ways of being.
Their ways of being. That's, as a final word, Anita, I would totally agree.